Dynasty Vipers Vipercast.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast team by team preview series. This time we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers. But first, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as we march towards 1,000 subscribers right here on the Vipers Network. Now let's get to business and let's talk about the Green Bay Packers of 2022. The team that finished 8-9, scoring 370 points while giving up 371. Their passing offense, it ranks 17th in the league, averaging 213.6 passing yards per game, while their run offense was 15th in the league, averaging 124.3. Now, defensively, this was one of the best pass defenses in the whole National Football League, giving up on average 197 yards. That was the sixth best mark in the NFL, while their run defense, well, it was 26th, and that averaged 139.5 yards per game against. Out from the darkness, Aaron Rodgers finally came, and he ushered in a new era in Green Bay. That's right, heading into 2023, one of the Packers fans will hopefully fall in love with. See what I did there? Now, before we talk about the future, we have to revisit the past and hope that the Packers learned something from the 2022 season there that came to a disappointing end in Lambeau Field in a win-and-you're-in type contest there against the Detroit Lions. Truth is, Aaron Rodgers was not the Rodgers of past. The Packers finished with a negative points differential. They were 3-3 in the division. They were 6-6 in the conference. Rodgers threw 12 interceptions, which was a career high, dating back all the way to the 13 he threw back in 2008. Meanwhile, 3,696 passing yards, that was the lowest in a season in which he played at least 16 games. Heading into 2023, I've got my eye on the wide receiver position on one of those camp battles that I can't wait to see how it plays out. And that's Romeo Doubs versus Jaden Reed, and which one of these wide receivers can earn the trust of Jordan Love and build that chemistry with him the quickest. We know that Christian Watson is going to be that wide receiver one in Green Bay, but the second option in this passing game is still very much in debate. There are 258 targets available after Aaron Rodgers took his ball, took Allen Lazard, and took Randall Cobb with him to New York City. That's not to mention that the Green Bay Packers decided not to re-sign Robert Tonyan, who's taking his talents to Chicago. Don't worry, Packers fans. Robert Tonyan certainly will not be missed. Now, when we look at the draft, here's the reason why. The Packers, they drafted multiple tight ends this season, but what we have to talk about first is that first-round selection, edge rusher Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa State. They followed that up with the tight end that we talked about there in the second round, pick number 42 out of Oregon State. That's Luke Musgrave. Then the 50th selection overall went to Jaden Reed, who I like him, and that's that camp battle we're looking at. High draft capital invested in the young man. In the third round, they went back to the tight end position, going with Tucker Kraft before the fourth round selection, pick 116, edge rusher Colby Wooden out of Auburn. Fifth round, they went to the quarterback there out of Penn State and Sean Clifford, followed by pick number 159, Dontavian Wicks out of Virginia Tech. And they followed that up finally with pick 179, Carl Brooks, defensive tackle. Now, when they look at the offseason additions and subtractions to this Packers roster, they didn't really add much via free agency. In fact, all they added was safety Tarvarius Moore and long snapper Matt Orzech. Now, as far as their losses are concerned, Aaron Rodgers is obviously the big one that everyone wants to talk about there, but really he was kind of lost prior to that. Now, wide receiver Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb went with Aaron Rodgers to New York, and Robert Tonyan, he went to Chicago. Defensive tackle Dean Lowry, defensive tackle Jaron Reed, as well as safety Adrian Amos. They're all gone. By the way, Amos, he signed with the New York Jets too. So that exodus from Green Bay to New York continues to go down. Now, the best move that these Packers made this whole offseason was honestly, it was probably the trade that sent Rodgers to the New York Jets. Following that whole journey that Brett Favre had set out before him, Green Bay can finally move on and see what they have in Jordan Love. Well, Packers fans will certainly be praying that this Love transition is something similar to when the team went through the same thing with Aaron Rodgers back in 2008. Now, the worst move, Green Bay, they still need to add that wide receiver, that big play threat there, opposite of Christian Watson. When it comes to big, splashy free agency moves, historically speaking, the Packers, they aren't about that life. If Love is what the Packers truly believe that he is, then just imagine Christian Watson having a wide receiver such as, DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. Perhaps Green Bay feels they already have this guy in Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs. What needs to happen for Green Bay heading into 2023? Well, Green Bay, it wasn't built in a day. That 2008 season was the ushering in of the Aaron Rodgers era. And if you recall, it didn't really get off to a great start, as the Packers would end up missing the playoffs and go 6-10 in Rodgers' first season under center. center. Now, fast forward to 2023. I don't anticipate that big of a drop-off, but you got to remember that Jordan Love has only attempted 83 passes in his career. That's it. 83 passes, that's all that's under his belt, so to speak. Now, I'm projecting the Packers' record drop to about 8-9 there. They could be 7-10. Maybe they even flirt with 9-8, but I'm going to go split that difference and go 8-9 here heading into the 2023 season. The Packers are certainly able to outperform that prediction here. If Jordan Love can continue to build on his passing from last season, remember, he averaged 9.3 yards per attempt. If Aaron Jones can get back to an all-pro type level, which he's more than capable of doing, but in order for this Packers team to improve, their best players all have to be their best players. There's no in-between for these guys. That said, here are the top 5 fantasy assets for the Green Bay Packers heading into 2023. Starting off at number 1, it's Christian Watson. Watson was a wide receiver 1 in 4 consecutive weeks from weeks 10 through 13. And if you played the long game with Watson, it paid off. Watson would end up producing what was a down year for Aaron Rodgers and this Packers offense as a whole. At number 2, it's going to be Aaron Jones, who averaged 2.2 yards after contact, 5.5 yards per carry in 2022. He has also finished as an RB1 in each of the last 4 seasons. Jones has also had 4 straight seasons in which 20% or more of his opportunities have come through targets, and that is PPR gold, baby. Now, number 3, it is Jordan Love. Watson's going to love himself some Jordan Love here in 2023. Like we said, Love averaged 9.3 yards per attempt, and Love should thrive in Matt LaFleur's old school West Coast offense. Number 4, A.J. Dillon. Dillon averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which was helped out by the fact that he had 30 runs in which he wasn't even contacted, and I can't even hate on that because there's no way you're going to catch me meeting A.J. Dillon in the hole. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be making business decisions. Now, 7 of his touchdowns came on 186 carries, which resulted in 770 yards on the ground. And at number 5 is my guy here, Jayden Reed, who had a 50% or greater contested catch rate 3 straight seasons running at Michigan State. That says something, and Love is going to appreciate that. Love is also going to appreciate the whole reception perception thing, where Reed has a 70.3% success rate versus man, a 79.2% success rate against zone, and a 77.8% success rate, which is in the 87th percentile amongst these draft receivers when it comes to press coverage. So out of those top 5 assets, who is the one player that you need to roster on your fantasy squads? It's my man, Aaron Jones. He needs to be a major part of this Packers offense if they are going to succeed this season. In fantasy, I talked about him needing to put together an all-pro caliber season, which shouldn't be too far-fetched considering those 4 straight top 12 seasons in which he's strung together for fantasy. And here you are grabbing an RB1 type running back in the 4th or 5th round of your fantasy drafts. He's not only the player you need, he's also coming in as the best value, probably even one of the best values in all of fantasy altogether. Now, the biggest bust, it might be Christian Watson. I'm not saying that this is going to be the case. I'm not saying he's going to be the bust, rather that he carries the greatest risk of being a bust because we don't know what we have in Jordan Love, and we're putting Christian Watson up on that pedestal right now, seeing what he had to end the season with last season. Now, Watson, he proved to be that man with Aaron Rodgers, who really wasn't even the best version of Aaron Rodgers that we have seen. But can he take that to the next step with Jordan Love under center? I don't know. Watson has a current ADP that has him as wide receiver 26. And for those who are drafting that aren't certain of Watson being a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 3, one thing that we do know is get this man the ball and he's going to make things happen. He was 4th in yards after the catch, behind only Jalen Waddle, Deebo Samuel, and Rondale Moore a season ago. As for the best fantasy value, I could take the easy road here and give you Aaron Jones once again, but I want to give you another name, and that name is Jayden Reed. Reed should earn Jordan Love's trust early here in camp with his contested catch abilities, with his abilities to win against man and zone. I mean, this dude was doing it over a 70% win rate in college. Now, Romeo Doubs is currently sitting in wide receiver 62 according to ADP, while Reed's value comes in at wide receiver 79. You need to look no further than Christian Watson a season ago to understand that rookie receivers, their payoff, it comes on the back end of the season. There's currently 0 risk in selecting Jayden Reed right now. Now, Jayden Reed could be that fantasy sleeper. We talked about that wide receiver 79, but we're going to go somewhere else. Green Bay has entered the Jordan Love era with a brand new cast of tight ends. Gone is Robert Tonyan. Gone is Mercedes Lewis. Say hello to Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Now, I recall watching Musgrave's film there during the draft process and thinking big dudes ain't supposed to move like that. I mean, the dude was pulling away from defensive backs, right? That shouldn't be happening. But it was. Now, Musgrave offers a unique blend of size and speed to the position. And while Love is technically not a rookie anymore, he is a first-year starter, and he could lean on a guy such as Musgrave early on in the season. Now, Musgrave is part of a speedy cast of pass catchers. I mean, he runs a 40.461. Christian Watson does it in 4.36. Jaden Reed does it in 4.37. For this Packers team to have success, they're going to need to push the ball down the field. They're going to need Jordan Love to push the ball downfield. We mentioned that yards per attempt. That might actually go up here in 2023. And if that happens and they have success, then this Packers team, they're going to have success too. Speed is going to open things up, not just for Jordan Love, but for Aaron Jones too, not as only as a pass catcher, but as a rusher. You put this all together, and there's a very good chance the Packers exceed those expectations that we talked about earlier on. Why the Packers could be one of those 8 and 9 teams, or possibly even an 11-win team. It all depends on how well this team comes together and how quickly they do it.